Hello, today is Thursday, February 29th, 2024. I'm Sarah Crafassi from LB3, and this is Staying Connected. If your enterprise has been around for any length of time, there's a good chance that you've considered partnering with a provider for managed or co-managed services offerings to help with your information and communications technology needs. Desirability of managed services hinges on a number of factors and can also change over time depending on the resources your enterprise has available. Not to mention that the ecosystem of providers and services in this sector has also experienced several pendulum swings. On today's podcast, I'm joined by Tech Caliber's Brian Carricker and Frank Zagrodnik, two experts in managed services deployment. Frank and Brian, thanks for joining me today. So to start, for our listeners who might not be so familiar with managed services, could you please explain what they are and why an enterprise might want to go in that direction, and also what the current landscape of providers and offerings looks like?
Absolutely, Sarah. It's great to be back on Staying Connected. So to start, an enterprise might hire a provider to perform managed services when they want to outsource responsibility for a specific IT or communication service. A managed services provider will maintain those ICT processes and functions to improve operations and ultimately reduce your cost. Co-management is similar, but in that case, the enterprise divides up responsibility for the services, and it will retain governance over certain technology silos or processes while giving operational oversight on others to a service provider. So before we talk about the changing landscape, let's put the global managed services marketplace into perspective. As you look at the addressable market, estimates put the value between 220 to 265 billion. Growth projections are upwards of 16% annually, looking out to 2030. We see firsthand with our clients the growth in service offerings and providers. This headline and impact definitely is being masked by all the AI headlines, but it's also a direct beneficiary. So it's not only a large and growing market, but it's also becoming more complex and evolving with greater focus on co-management.
Hi, Frank and Sarah. Frank, you and I, we lived through a bunch of the growth you just talked through. When I started in the managed services space 20 years ago, everything was very manual. After 6 years in the industry, my first two positions that I had no longer existed. After those 2 years, those positions were done by servers. Now we're in the early innings of AI and its impact on managed services. If your organization right now is not employing significant usage of AI and automation, I would venture to say that you're running your organization with less information and speed than your competitors. In the arena of artificial intelligence, huge investments in time and money are being spent to develop AI solutions. With artificial intelligence and the emphasis on innovation, there's a real need to evolve which elements of your IT organization should handle internally versus leveraging a managed service provider. As we look forward, code management growth has no end in sight.
That's absolutely right, Brian. There are a wide range of reasons we believe co-management will continue to scale. One of the key areas is the continued demand on IT organizations as they face challenges with staffing and knowledge gaps. Whether your team is constrained due to layoffs, seasonal spikes in demand, new projects are consuming more and more of your time, or you have specific knowledge gaps, co-management can bring experience and scalability. Additionally, we forecast that managed services providers will adapt more of their offerings for specific business use cases. For example, providing a cost-effective and customized monitoring probe that can scale for large retail or healthcare industries and bundling it with machine-to-machine wireless or other communication services is definitely on the horizon.
Yes, based on our recent client experiences, outsourcing levels are coming into question due to the changing business use cases. We're seeing many companies not satisfied with the current models. Clients are often struggling with whether they need to extend their managed services use with their managed services provider or bring some of those items back in-house. The situation often arises due to budgetary constraints that force the enterprise to look for new opportunities and different approaches. Let's be real, managed services costs can be high, that's for sure. but the services themselves don't always drive the impact and the required outcomes. This is an area we navigate with our clients, trying to help them strike the balance between ensuring their current managed service solutions are properly assessed and helping them design an in-house solution which would best suit their needs. As your IT organization evolves with technology, what would work yesterday won't likely work and have the same impact tomorrow because of the introduced complexity in the IT environment. We predict more companies will lean towards the co-management model to leverage new technologies, have further reach into the IT stack, and ultimately protect mission-critical components of their organization.
You mentioned earlier that artificial intelligence will present another consideration in enterprises' evaluations as to which elements of their IT organization should be handled internally versus with a managed service provider. Can you expand on that?
As a result of new tools and expertise, the utilization of AI by managed service providers is becoming more impactful. As we lead client engagements, we see more AI integration across root cause analysis and data analytics. On a recent engagement, we've seen where AI is playing a significant role in enhancing network incident management. AI-powered systems can automatically triage and classify incidents, applying necessary fixes to improve the mean time to repair and minimize impact. By analyzing historical incident data, these systems can also identify patterns and predict future events. Over the course of the coming year, we see more AI impacts on the horizon. These will serve as augmentation tools, akin to having a large NOC and lifecycle engineering function for a more economical cost. It will also complement human expertise, making incident management more effective and efficient.
Yeah, the use case for incident management is one of the big beneficiaries of AI, but we also predict that there'll be a huge impact on performance reporting, predictive utilization, and predictive incident prevention, as well as vulnerability assessment. Managed service providers are investing huge money today in the digital landscape, and the ones that are investing big in that space will be tomorrow's leaders. The right managed service partner can propel your business forward more efficiently than doing it alone. We've teamed with our clients and managed services providers to do assessments of their current operations, infrastructures, and business requirements, taking a more holistic approach and building KPIs that address pain points. In addition to highly skilled teams, managed services providers can provide best practices that help to drive savings, up-to-date technologies, as well as overall performance improvements.
Okay, so how can an enterprise know whether it should be investing in its own ICT employees or whether going the managed services route is a better option?
So one of the key considerations as requirements expand to manage and maintain highly complex IT infrastructure is whether an enterprise wants to invest in staffing themselves or partner with an expert service provider. Companies may not have the full slate of talent or even the desire to navigate all the technological challenges they face themselves, which lends itself to more of a co-management model. MSPs are getting better at partnering with IT organizations and becoming more adept at collaborating. And this is building trust and driving results with our clients. If customers are considering a managed services or co-management approach, out of the gates, it is key to define expectations. For example, operational outcomes should adhere to leading market metrics, and guardrails are needed so the financial expectations are met. Keep in mind, this doesn't mean every problem will be fixed on day one. Managed services and especially co-management relationships are all about ongoing partnership, not a one-time service. So along with establishing clear goals and managing the relationship, establishing the scope of service is a critical success factor.
Speaking of partnerships and relationships, we're even seeing this change on the supplier side. A partnership we have to touch on when we talk about managed services and this whole space is the relationship with Verizon and HCO. The last few months, Verizon transitioned all of their client-facing operational support organization to HCO. We're working with several clients right now, helping them evaluate this change and determine the demarc between Verizon and HCL, as well as which services are owned by which organization and how it's going to impact the client's contract. We've been told that there's not going to be really any big change on the client side, that support from Verizon and HCL will be the same as support from Verizon. But in recent engagements with both, we can see that there's a greater challenge than what we're being presented with here.
Oh, that's good to know. All right, Frank and Brian, any final takeaways on this subject for our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. As complex as the IT landscape has become, every enterprise needs to focus on striking the right balance between people, processes, and tools when it comes to having a well-operating ICT system. Moving to a co-management model should provide you scale, robust expertise, streamlined processes, and overall efficiency to your enterprise. Digital transformation requires a reset on how you support day-to-day management tasks versus other strategic initiatives.
100% agree, Frank. As we look forward, we would recommend taking a look at your IT mission and your goals. Being willing to ask tough questions, unconventional questions, are the real key here. For instance, there's an automatic nature in the IT organization to upskill resources. We just automatically do that. But are you chasing a technology that's no longer in your strategic path? Or should you focus on strategic sourcing and outcome-based IT partnerships? Revisiting options for your overall IT model and focusing on solving challenges and future deficiencies will drive success for your organization.
All right. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Frank, for joining us. And if you would like to discuss any managed services or co-managed services options, please don't hesitate to contact Brian, Frank, or any of our LB3 or TC2 colleagues. You can also stay up to date on a variety of ICT topics by subscribing to Staying Connected, checking our websites, and following us on LinkedIn.